Here and welcome to another live stream. This is a bit different from the one that I was doing for the last number of days, reading the book that is the teenager's guide to life, liberty, and the pursuit of awesomeness. I'm gonna be finishing off that book here soon. Don't worry about it. Um, But for now, I actually have these two decks here that you have seen in front, on the of the pin, the preview of it. So I'm gonna state for the record that I did not buy these decks. These were actually birthday gifts to me from my niece and nephew. For my 29th birthday, my nephew's deck, which is going to be the first one that I'm going to show here, came first, with the other one coming shortly after that. They didn't come together like they probably were supposed to, but whatever. In any event, here we're gonna get started with these decks. And I apologize if the cards do not look the best here. Uh, when it comes to the lighting and shading, yeah, I can't help that. It's just how my room is at this point currently, but yeah. In any event, let's get started with the first deck. This first deck is the Freezing Chains deck. You'll see exactly what I mean when we get to it, but for now, let's get started. We go first with Revealer of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 4 water attribute spellcaster effect monster with the effect while you control another excuse me. While you control another Ice Barrier monster, your opponent cannot tribute summon. While you can only use each of the following effects of Revealer of the Ice Barrier once per turn. You can discard one card, special summon one Ice Barrier tuner from your deck. Then also you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except water monsters. If you would discard or send a card or cards from your hand to the graveyard to activate an Ice Barrier monster's effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead of one of those cards. This card has 1700 attack and 1000 defense. Next up we have Speaker for the Ice Barriers. This is a level 4 water attribute spellcaster effect monster. With the effect, while you control another Ice Barrier monster, defense position monsters your opponent controls cannot change their battle positions. You can only use each of the following effects of Speaker for the Ice Barriers. Once per turn, if you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Special summon one Ice Barrier token, Agua Water level 1, 0 attack, 0 defense. This card has 1000 attack and 1800 defense. Next up we have Zuijin of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 2 warrior effect. This is a level 2 water attribute warrior effect monster. With the effect, you contribute this card, special summon one level 5 or higher Ice Barrier monster from your hand. If this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can target one level 3 or higher water monster you control. Reduce its level by exactly 2, and if you do, special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use each effect of Zuijin of the Ice Barrier once per turn. This card has 500 attack and 300 defense. And I accidentally bumped the camera. Sorry about that. But anyway, next up we have Winds over the Ice Barrier. This spell card has the effect tribute any number of Ice Barrier monsters, special summon from your deck that many level 4 or lower Ice Barrier monsters with different names from each other. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard then turn on one of your Ice Barrier monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. Add it to your hand. You can only use each effect of Winds over the Ice Barrier once per turn. Next up, for part of the extra deck monsters, we have Trishula, Zero Dragon of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 10, I believe, a level 10 water attribute dragon synchro effect monster. Requires one tuner plus two or more non-tuner monsters to synchro summon this card with the effect. When this card is synchro summoned, you can banish up to 3 cards your opponent controls. If this synchro summoned card is in its owner's control is destroyed by an opponent's monster, you can special summon one Trishula Dragon the Ice Barrier from your extra deck or graveyard. And its attack becomes 3300, then have the attack of any face-up monsters your opponent currently controls also negate their effects. You can only use this effect of Trishula Zero Dragon of the Ice Barrier once per turn. This card has 2700 attack and 2000 defense. Next we have Duloran, Tiger King of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 6 water attribute beast synchro effect monster. Requires 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner water monsters to do this. To synchro summon it. My right foot's getting a little tired. Hold on 1 second here. Sorry. But it has the effect you can target any number of other face-up cards you control. Return those targets to the hand, and if you do, this card gains 500 attack for each card returned to the hand by this effect until the end of this turn. You can only use this effect of Duloran, Tiger King of the Ice Barrier once per turn. This card has 2000 attack and 1400 defense. Next we have Bryonic, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 6 water attribute Sea Serpent synchro effect monster. Requires 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner monsters to synchro summon this card. With the effect, you can discard any number of cards to the graveyard, then target the same number of cards your opponent controls. Return those cards to the hand. You can only use this effect of Bryonic, Dragon of the Ice Barrier once per turn. This card has 2300 attack and 1400 defense. Next we have Gungnir, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 7 water attribute dragon synchro effect monster, requiring 1 tuner plus 3 plus non-tuner water monsters. With the effect, once per turn, you can discard up to 2 cards to the graveyard, then target the same number of cards your opponent controls. Destroy them. This card has 2500 attack and 1700 defense. And finally, we got Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 9 water attribute dragon synchro effect monster with the required 1 tuner plus 2 plus non-tuner monsters to synchro summon this card. With the effect, when this card is synchro summoned, you can banish up to 1 card each from your opponent's hand, field, and graveyard. The card in the hand is chosen at random. This card has 2700 attack and 2000 defense. Now for the quote-unquote common cards. And I say this because technically all these cards are pretty common in a way if you were to buy the structure deck, but whatever, we're moving on. Next up we have General Wayne of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 5 water attribute warrior effect monster with the effect. Spells and traps sent from the field to your opponent's graveyard are banished instead. You can only use each of the following effects of General Wayne of the Ice Barrier once per turn. If your opponent controls a monster and you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Ice Barrier spell trap card from your hand or from your deck to your hand. This card has 2100 attack and 400 defense. Next up we have Texas Spirit of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 1 water attribute Sea Serpent tuner effect monster with the effect. While you control another Ice Barrier monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense. During your main phase, you can send 1 level 3 or lower Ice Barrier monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's level becomes the same as that monster's until the end of this turn. You can only use this effect of Hexa Spirit of the Ice Barrier once per turn. This card has 400 attack and 200 defense. Next up we have Blizzard, Defender of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 1 water attribute Aqua effect monster with the effect. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, draw 1 card. This card has 300 attack and 500 defense. Next we have Cryomancer the Ice Barrier. This is a level 2 water attribute Agua Tuner effect monster. Ow, my foot. With the effect, while you control another Ice Barrier monster, level 4 or higher monsters cannot declare an attack. This card has 1300 attack and 0 defense. Next we have Prior of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 2 water attribute Aqua effect monster with the effect. If you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You cannot special summon any level 5 or higher monsters the turn you summon this way. You contribute this card, then target one Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard, except Prior of the Ice Barrier. Special summon that target. This card has 1000 attack and 400 defense. Next, we have Defender of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 3 water attribute Aqua Tuner effect monster with the effect. While you control another Ice Barrier monster, monsters your opponent controls cannot declare an attack if their attack is greater than or equal to this card's defense. This card has 200 attack and 1600 defense. Next, we have Warlock of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 3 water attribute spellcaster effect monster with the effect. While you control another Ice Barrier monster, both players must set spell cards before activating them, and cannot activate them until their next turn. This card has 400 attack and 1000 defense. Next we have Spellbreaker the Ice Barrier. This is a level 4 water attribute spellcaster effect monster. With the effect, once per turn you can send one Ice Barrier monster from your hand to the graveyard. Neither player can activate spell cards until the end of your next turn, while this monster is face up on the field. This card has 1200 attack and 2000 defense. So basically it's like an effect version of Aguamador, because I know that Aguamador has the same attack and defense points as that previous monster. Anyway, next up we have Strategist of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 4 water attribute spellcaster effect monster. With the effect, once per turn, you can send one Ice Barrier monster from your hand to the graveyard, draw one card. This card has 1600 attack and 1600 defense. Next up we have Dance Princess of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 4 water attribute spellcaster effect monster with the effect. Once per turn, if you control another Ice Barrier monster, you can reveal any number of Ice Barrier monsters in your hand, then target an equal number of set spells and traps your opponent controls, return those targets to the hand. This card has 1700 attack and 900 defense. Next we have Daisojo of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 6 water attribute spellcaster effect monster with the effect. If this card is normal or flip summoned, change it to defense position. Ice Barrier monsters you control cannot be destroyed by spell or trap effects. This card has 1600 attack and 2200 defense. That's actually a pretty interesting card when you think about it. But anyway, next up we have General Raiho of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 6 water attribute warrior effect monster with the effect. When your opponent's monster effect activated on the field resolves, they must discard one card or the effect is negated. Their choice. This card has 2100 attack and 2300 defense. That is actually a pretty good effect when you think about it. Forcing them to discard a card if they want their activated effect to resolve. That is crazy, and I just realized my camera is actually a little bit out of whack here, because it was pointing that way and not straight ahead, but whatever. Anyway, moving on. Next up we have Medium of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 7 water attribute spellcaster effect monster with the effect. If your opponent controls 4 or more cards than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand. Your opponent can only activate one spell or trap card each turn. Interesting. This card has 2200 attack and 1600 defense. Next up we have General Gantala of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 7 water attribute warrior effect monster with the effect. Once per turn during your end phase, you can target one Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard, except General Gantala of the Ice Barrier. Special summon it. This card has 2700 attack and 2000 defense. So basically, it's like an end of turn monster reborn. Interesting. Okay. Next up, we have General Grenard of the Ice Barrier. This is a level 8 water attribute warrior effect monster with the effect. During your main phase, you can normal summon one Ice Barrier monster in addition to your normal summon set. You can only gain this effect once per turn. This card has 2800 attack and 1000 defense. Next we have Gen X Controller. This is a level 3 dark attribute machine tuner normal monster with the description: as a master of all powers and elements, this is one of the few Gen X monsters that can communicate with its companions. This card has 1400 attack and 1200 defense. Next up we have Gen X Undine. This is a level 3 water attribute Agua effect monster with the effect: this card is normal summoned, or when this card is normal summoned, you can send one water monster from your deck to the graveyard, add one Gen X controller from your deck to your hand. This card has 1200 attack and 600 defense. Next up we have Agua Spirit. This is a level 4 water attribute Agua effect monster with the effect: cannot be normal summoned or set, must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing one water monster from your graveyard. Once per turn during your opponent's standby phase, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, change that target's battle position, and if you do, it cannot change its battle position for the rest of this turn. This card has 1600 attack and 1200 defense. You know, as I'm looking through this deck, if there's one thing I'm wondering, because I have seen this deck before I did this, is how there's one card that I'm kind of surprised it doesn't have. But we'll get to that when we get to it. Next up, we got Dupe Frog. It's a level 2 water attribute Agua effect monster with the effect: this card's name becomes Death Frog while on the field. Monsters your opponent controls cannot target monsters for attacks except this one. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add one frog monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except Dupe Frog. This card has 100 attack and 2000 defense. Now, if I remember correctly, and I'm pretty certain I am correct on this, it's either that card or this next card that was put on the limited/ban list for one reason or another, regardless of whether it was limited or banned. But anyway, next up we have Ronin Toadin. This is a level 2 water attribute Agua effect monster with the effect: cannot be used as synchro material. This card's name becomes Death Frog while on the field. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one frog monster from your graveyard, special summon this card. This card has 100 attack and 2000 defense. Next up we have excuse me. We have Fishborg Launcher. This is a level 1 water attribute fish tutor effect monster with the effect: cannot be used as a synchro material except for the synchro summon of a water synchro monster. If you have a monster or monsters in your graveyard other than Fishborg Launcher and all of them are water, you can special summon this card from your graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect of Fishborg Launcher once per turn. This card has 200 attack and 100 defense. Next up, we have Malinglacia, the Elemental Lord. This is a level 8 water attribute sea serpent effect monster with the effect: cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by having exactly 5 water monsters in your graveyard. If this card is special summoned, discard 2 random cards from your opponent's hand or their entire hand if less than 2. You can only use this effect of Malinglacia, the Elemental Lord, once per turn. If this face-up card leaves the field, skip the battle phase of your next turn. This card has 2800 attack and 2200 defense. So basically, we got to do our best if we would have to do our best to make sure that card does not leave the field. But anyway, next up we have Silent Angler. This is a level 4 level 4 water attribute fish effect monster with the effect: if you control a water monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, but you cannot special summon monsters from your hand for the rest of this turn. This card has 800 attack and 1400 defense. Now it's time for the spell cards. First up, we have Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier. This is a continuous spell card with the effect. When this card is activated, you can target one level 4 or lower Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard. Special summon it. While you control 3 or more Ice Barrier monsters you control are unaffected by the activated effects of your opponent's monsters that were special summoned from the extra deck. You can only activate one Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier per turn. Next up, we have Magic Triangle of the Ice Barrier. This spell card has the effect. Reveal 3 Ice Barrier monsters with different names in your hand. Then target one card your opponent controls. Destroy that target, and if you do, special summon one Ice Barrier monster from your hand. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Next up, we have Medallion of the Ice Barrier. This spell card has the effect. Add one Ice Barrier monster from your deck to your hand. Alright. Next up we have Mirror of the Ice Barrier. This is a quick play. It's not a counter spell card like I probably said it was. It's called a quick play spell card with the effect. During this turn, each time a card or cards is banished from your hand, field, and or graveyard by your opponent's activated monster effect, apply the following effects based on where these cards were banished from. Hand. Banish up to 2 random cards from your opponent's hand. Field. Banish up to 2 cards your opponent controls. Graveyard. Banish up to 2 cards from your opponent's graveyard. Alright. Next we have Salvage. This spell card has the effect. Target 2 water monsters with 1500 or less attack in your graveyard. Add those targets to your hand. Alright. Next up we have Surface. This spell card has the effect. Target 1 level 3 or lower fish, sea serpent, or aqua monsters in your graveyard. Special summon it in defense position. Next up we have Where Art Thou? This spell card has the effect. If you control a level 1 monster, add 1 level 1 monster from your deck to your hand. During the end phase of this turn, take 2000 damage if you did not normal summon the added monster or a card with the same name after activating this card. I wonder what we would do in that situation. Oh, probably activate it just to get it out of our hand. Anyway, next up we have the trap cards. The first one being Appointer of the Red Lotus. This trap card has the effect. Pay 2,000 life points and reveal your entire hand. Look at your opponent's hand and banish 1 card from their hand until your opponent's next end phase. Alright. Next up we have Fiendish Chain. This continuous trap card has the effect. Activate this card by targeting 1 effect monster on the field. Negate the effects of that face-up monster when it is on the field. Also, that face-up monster cannot attack. When it is destroyed, destroy this card. Alright. Next up, we have A-Spawn. This is a continuous trap card with the effect. If a non-water monster or monsters is normal or special summoned while you control a water monster, change that summoned monster to defense position. Alright. Next up, we have Mind Drain. This continuous trap card has the effect. Activate this card by paying 1,000 life points. Neither player can activate the effects of monsters in the hand. I don't know if that's partly a blessing, but partly a curse. But whatever. Next up we have Heavy Storm Duster. This trap card has the effect. Target up to 2 spell traps on the field, destroy them. You cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this card. So basically, you're activating it on your opponent's turn because then you're not really battling it. You're not having a battle phase on that turn. Anyway, next up we have Crackdown. This continuous trap card has the effect. Activate by targeting 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Take control of that monster. While you control that monster, it cannot attack or activate effects. When that monster leaves the field, destroy this card. And finally, we have Terror of Trishula. This trap card has the effect. Apply these effects in sequence depending on the number of Ice Barrier monsters Ice Barrier Synchro monsters you control with different names. 1+, banish one card your opponent controls. 2+, banish one card from your opponent's graveyard. 3+, banish one random card from your opponent's hand. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets an Ice Barrier Synchro monsters you control, you can banish this card from the graveyard, negate that effect. You can only use each effect of Terror of Trishula once per turn. Yeah, I was gonna say that was the last one of that card. Alright, so that one was the deck known as Freezing Chains, and now our next deck is the Alba's Strike structure deck. I need to make sure these are not shown because we don't really need to see them. So let's begin. So first and foremost, we have Tri-Brigade Mercurier. This is a level 4 Dark Attribute Winged Beast effect monster. With the effect, when your opponent activates a monster effect while you control a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand. Oh, hold on, I just noticed something here. Anyway, you can send this card from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard. Negate that effect. If this card is banished, you can add from your deck to your hand one Fallen of Albaz or one monster that mentions it, except Tri-Brigade Mercurier. You can only use each effect of Tri-Brigade Mercurier once per turn. This card has 800 attack and 0 defense. Next up we have Spriggan's Kit. This is a level 4 Dark Attribute Beast Effect monster. Level 4 Dark Attribute Beast Effect monster. With the effect, if you have a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material on your field or in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add to your hand one of your branded spells or traps that is banished or in your deck or graveyard. Then place one card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. You can only use each effect of Spriggan's Kit once per turn. This card has 1700 attack and 1000 defense. Next up, we have the Golden Soul. This level 4 light attribute. This is a level 4 light attribute spellcaster tuner effect monster. With the effect, when a monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if you do, negate that attack. Then, if you conducted a fusion monster, if you control a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material, you can destroy that monster that declared that attack. If a monster is banished face up except during the damage step, you can banish this card from your hand, from your field or graveyard. Special summon one light spellcaster monster from your hand or graveyard whose attack equals its own defense. You can only use this effect of the Golden Soul once per turn. This card has 1800 attack, and 1500 defense. Wanted to make sure I showed the whole card before I put it down. Next up, we have Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. This is a level 8 Dark Attribute Worm Fusion Effect monster. Requires Fallen of Albaz plus 1 Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link monster. You can only control one Mirror Jade the Ice Blade Dragon. Once per turn, quick effect, you can send one fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material. Banish one monster on the field. Also, this card cannot use this effect next turn. If this fusion summoned card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can destroy all monsters your opponent controls during the end phase of this turn. This card has 3000 attack and 2500 defense. Next up, we have Lubellion the Searing Dragon. This is a level 8 light attribute dragon fusion effect monster. Requires one dark monster plus Fallen of Albaz. With the effect, if this card is fusion summoned, you can discard one card. Fusion summon one level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck except Lubellion the Searing Dragon, by shuffling fusion materials mentioned on it into the deck from your monsters on the field, graveyard, and or face-up banished cards. For the rest of this turn, this card cannot attack, and also you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters. You can only use this effect of Lubellion the Searing Dragon once per turn. This card has 2500 attack and 3000 defense. Next up, we have Branded Fusion. The spell card has the effect: Fusion summon one fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material from your extra deck. Using two monsters from your hand deck or field as fusion material. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters the turn you activate this card. You can only activate one Branded Fusion per turn. Next up, we have Branded Sword. The strap card has the effect: banish any number of branded spells traps from your graveyard. Special summon that many Ice Blade tokens. Dragon Dark level 8, 2500 attack, 2000 defense. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your banished monsters that is Fallen of Albaz or mentions it. Add that monster to your hand. You can only use one branded sword effect per turn and only once that turn. Next up, we have Branded Retribution. This counter trap card has the effect: when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster or monsters, return to the extra deck one face-up fusion monster you control or two fusion monsters in your graveyard that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material, and if you do, negate the activation, and if you do that, destroy that card. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one branded spell trap in your graveyard, except Branded Retribution. Add it to your hand. You can only use one Branded Retribution effect per turn, and only once that turn. Next, we have the aforementioned Fallen of Albaz. This is a level 4 Dark Attribute Dragon Effect monster with the effect: if this card is normal or special summoned except during the damage step, you can discard one card. Fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters on either field as material. Fusion material. Hold on, I noticed there's a little speck of something right there. But anyway, as fusion material, including this card, but you cannot use other monsters you control as fusion material. You can only use this effect of Fallen of Albaz once per turn. This card has 1800 attack and 0 defense. I gotta say, that is one of the coolest card artworks I have ever seen in my entire life. Ever. One of the coolest, if not the coolest one. But anyway, next up we have Albion the Shrouded Dragon. This is a level 8 Dark Attribute Dragon Effect monster with the effect: this card's name becomes Fallen of Albaz while on the field or in the graveyard. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send one Fallen of Albaz or one branded spell trap from your hand or deck to the graveyard. Apply the following effect based on where you sent it from. Hand, special summon this card. Deck, place this card on the bottom of the deck. Then, if you place this card from your hand, draw one card. You can only use this effect of Albion the Shrouded Dragon once per turn. Next up, we have Dogmatica Fiordali the Knighted. This is a level 8 light attribute spellcaster effect monster with the effect: during the main phase, if a monster special summoned from the extra deck is on the field, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then, if you control another Dogmatica monster, you can negate the effect of one face-up monster on the field until the end of this turn. When your Dogmatica monster declares an attack, you can make all Dogmatica monsters you currently control gain 500 attack. You can only use each effect of Dogmatica Fiordali the Knighted once per turn. This card has 2500 attack and 2500 defense. Next up, we have Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. If you remember this card, it was in the Dragon's Collide structure deck, which I thought was really cool, if I'm being honest. But anyway, this is a level A level 10 Dark Attribute Dragon Effect monster. With the effect, you can special summon this card from your hand by banishing one face-up dragon monster you control. You can only special summon Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon once per turn this way. During your main phase, you can special summon one dragon monster from your hand or graveyard, except Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. You can only use this effect of Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon once per turn. This card has 2800 attack and 2400 defense. Dude, that is a really good card. And no wonder why so many people like this card. Compared to Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon, which I know how bad that card is because it's basically just like talking about how you can only summon it by tributing a Red Eyes Black Dragon that was uh, equipped with Metal Morph, which is a bad idea because that's all it really says you can do with it. And on top of that, it doesn't give the added effect that Metal Morph would give you, but whatever. It's kind of stupid, but whatever. We're moving on. Anyway, next up we have Thunder King the Lightning Strike Kaiju. How many things? I wonder how many decks I have that have a kaiju. How many kaiju cards I have combined in all of these decks that I have. Seriously, I probably got like at least 10 of them now. But anyway, we're moving on. Anyway, this is a level 9 light attribute thunder effect monster. With the effect, you can special summon this card from your hand to your opponent's field in attack position by attributing one monster they control. If your opponent controls a kaiju monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in attack position. You can only control one kaiju monster. Once per turn, you can remove 3 kaiju counters from anywhere on the field. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects for the rest of this turn. Also, this card can make up to 3 attacks on monsters during each battle phase this turn. This card has 3300 attack and 2100 defense. Next up, we have Chaos Dragon Levianeer. This is a level 8 Dark Attribute Dragon Effect monster. With the effect, cannot be normal summoned set, must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing... Oh. Sorry, my phone just told me, hey, you're low on battery, you might want to hurry this up. Well, I'm hurrying. But anyway, you can special summon this card from your hand by banishing 3 light and or dark monsters from your graveyard. When summoned this way, you can activate its effects, apply the following... You can activate this effect, apply the following effect based on the attributes of the monsters banished for the special summon. Also, this card cannot attack for the rest of this turn. Only light, special summon one monster from your graveyard in defense position. Only dark, shuffle one random card from your opponent's hand into the deck. Both light and dark destroy up to 2 cards on the field. You can only use this effect of Chaos Dragon Levianeer once per turn. This card has 3000 attack and 0 defense. If I can hurry this up, we can actually get this dealt with before too long. Anyway, next up we have Radian, the multi-dimensional kaiju. This is a level 7 Dark Attribute Fiend Effect monster. We already know the first half of it, so we're going to skip that because we know what kaiju monsters do at this point. But we will read this second part here. Once per turn, you can remove 2 kaiju counters from anywhere on the field. Special summon 1 Radiant token, Fiend Dark level 7, 2800 attack, 0 defense, but it cannot be used as synchro material. This card has 2800 attack and 2500 defense. Next up we have Artifact Scythe. This is a level 5 light attribute fairy effect monster. Man, for a light attribute monster, it does not look like a light attribute card. You'd think it would be dark, but anyway. This card has the effect, you can set this card from your hand to your spell and trap zone as a spell. During your opponent's turn, if this set card in the spell and trap zone is destroyed and sent to your graveyard, special summon it. If this card is special summoned during your opponent's turn, your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn. This card has 2200 attack and 900 defense. Next up we have White Dragon Wyvern Buster. Wyvern Burster is a level 4 light attribute dragon effect monster. With the effect, cannot be normal summoned set, must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 1 dark monster from your graveyard. You can only special summon White Dragon or Wyvern Buster once per turn this way. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add one Black Dragon Collapse Serpent from your deck to your hand. This card has 1700 attack and 1800 defense. Speaking of which, next up we have Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. There's a level 4 Dark Attribute Dragon Effect monster with the effect cannot be normal summoned set, must be special summoned from your hand by banishing one light monster from your graveyard. You can only special summon Black Dragon Collapse Serpent once per turn this way. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add one White Dragon Wyvern Burster from your deck to your hand. This card has 1800 attack and 1700 defense. Next we have Starliege Strayfurt. There's a level 4 light attribute Dragon Effect monster with the effect. You can send any number of dragon monsters from your hand and or face-up field to the graveyard. Add one dragon monster from your deck to your hand whose level equals the total original levels of those monsters sent to the graveyard. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one level 8 light or dark dragon monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use each effect of Starliege Strayfurt once per turn. This card is 1800 attack and 0 defense. Next up we have Keeper of Dragon Magic. There's a level 4 dark attribute dragon effect monster with the effect. If this card's normal or special summon, you can discard one card, add one polymerization normal spell or fusion normal spell from your deck to your hand. You can reveal one fusion monster in your extra deck, special summon one of the fusion materials mentioned on that monster from your graveyard in face down defense position. You can only use each effect of Keeper of Dragon Magic once per turn. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters the turn you activate either of this card's effects. This card has 1800 attack and 1300 defense. Yeah, I'm trying to hurry because my phone's at 20% and is at 20% or less, so I'm trying to hurry it up here. Next up we have Summoner Monk. There's a level 4 dark attribute spellcaster effect monster with the effect. While this card is face up on the field, it cannot be tributed. If this card is normal or flip summoned, change this card to defense position. Once per turn, you can discard one spell, special summon one level 4 monster from your deck, but that monster cannot attack this turn. This card has 800 attack and 1600 defense. Next we have Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. This is a level 3 light attribute Cyclic Tuner effect monster with the effect. When a monster on the field activates its effect, or when a spell trap that is already face up on the field activates its effect, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, destroy that card on the field. You can only use this effect of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit once per turn. This card has 0 attack and 1800 defense. Next up we have Effect Veiler. This is a level 1 light attribute spellcaster tuner effect monster with the effect. During your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, then target one effect monster your opponent controls. Negate the effects of that face-up monster your opponent controls until the end of this turn. This card has 0 attack and 0 defense. Next we have Omni Dragon Bro Tower. This is a level 1 dark attribute dragon effect monster with the effect. If a monster you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can special summon this card from the graveyard if it was there when the monster was destroyed, or hand even if not, but banish it when it leaves the field. If this card is special summoned, you can target one face-up monster on the field, discard one card, and if you do, add one monster from your deck to your hand with the same type and attribute as that target, but has a different name. You can only use each effect of Omni Dragon Bro Tower once per turn. This card has 0 attack and 0 defense. Now for the spell cards, we have Branded Lost. This is a continuous spell card with the effect. The activation of your cards and effects that include an effect that fusion summons a fusion monster cannot be negated. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way. If you fusion summon a fusion monster, you can add one Fallen of Albaz or one monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Branded Lost once per turn. Next up we have Branded in White. This spell card has the effect fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a dragon monster. You can also banish monsters from your graveyard as material. If you use Fallen of Albaz as fusion material from your hand, field, or by banishing itself from your graveyard, during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there To activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz this turn, you can set this card. You can only use each effect of Branded in white once per turn. Next up, we have Branded Bond. The spell card has the effect: special summon one of your Fallen of Albaz that is banished in your hand or in your graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz this turn, you can set this card. You can only use each effect of Branded Bond once per turn. I'm starting to get the feeling that most of these cards involve being set if it's sent to the graveyard by way of Fallen of Albaz's effect. But anyway, next up we have Fusion Gate. This field spell card has the effect: during the main phase, the turn player can fusion summon one fusion monster from their extra deck by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from their hand or field. This card would be really good with that Cyber Dragon deck that I got over there. I'm telling you. Anyway, next up we have Fusion Recycling Plant. This field spell card has the effect: once per turn you can discard one card, add one polymerization from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You can, once per turn during the end phase, you can target one monster in your graveyard that was used as fusion material for a fusion summon this turn and add it to your hand. Fallen of Albaz, pretty much. Anyway, next up we have Fusion Substitute. This spell card has the effect: this card is always treated as a polymerization. Fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control as fusion material. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one fusion monster in your graveyard. Return it to the extra deck, then draw one card. Next up we have Gold Sarcophagus. This spell card has the effect: banish one card from your deck face up. During your second standby phase after this card's activation, add that card to the hand. Next up we have Pot of Extravagance. This spell card has the effect: at the start of your main phase 1, banish 3 or 6 random face down cards from your extra deck. Face down, draw one card for every 3 cards banished. For the rest of this turn after this card resolves, you cannot draw any cards by card effects. Next up we have Called by the Grave. This quick play spell card has the effect: target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and if you do, until the end of the next turn, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of monsters with this same original name. Next up we have Dark Ruler No More. The spell card has the effect: negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls until the end of this turn. Also, for the rest of this turn after this card resolves, your opponent takes no damage. Neither player can activate monster effects in response to this card's activation. But that don't mean they can't do spell or trap cards. Anyway, next up we have Screams of the Branded. This trap card has the effect: if a fusion monster was sent to your graveyard this turn, special summon one of your fusion monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz this turn, you can set this card. You can only use this effect of Screams of the Branded once per turn. Next up, we have Judgment of the Branded. This trap card has the effect: target one level 8 or higher fusion monster you control. Destroy all monsters your opponent controls with an equal or higher attack than that monster. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz this turn, you can set this card. You can only use this effect of Judgment of the Branded once per turn. Next up, we have Necrofusion. This trap card has the effect: fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from your graveyard face down, but it cannot attack this turn. Next up we have Back to the Front. This trap card has the effect: target one monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense position. So it's pretty much a trap card version of Monster Reborn, but you're stuck to putting it in defense position, in defense mode. Anyway, next up we have Warning Point. This trap card has the effect: when a monster or monsters is summoned this turn, that face-up monster or monsters cannot attack. Its effects are negated, and also it cannot be used as material for a fusion, synchro, Xyz, or link summon. Wow, that is a pretty good card. But anyway, next up, here's a card that I think is also on the limited/ban list, at least in some capacity. There can be only one. This continuous trap card has the effect: each player can only control one monster of each type. If a player controls two or more monsters of the same type, they must send some to the graveyard so they control no more than one monster of that type. Interesting. Next up, we have Dimensional Barrier. This trap card has the effect. Hey, Mr. Coconut, how you doing tonight? This card has the effect: declare one monster card type, Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Pendulum. For the rest of this turn, neither player can special summon monsters of the declared type. Also negate the effects of all monsters of that type while they are on the field. You can only activate one Dimensional Barrier per turn. I find it funny how they don't mention the Link monster, but whatever. Anyway, next up we have Waking the Dragon. This trap card has the effect: if this said card in its own... Doing good, just got a little cough and throat infection. How are you? Oh, I'm doing pretty good. My feet are killing me now. Shoot. My feet are going to be killing me for a little bit. My toes specifically are going to be killing me for a little bit. Hold on a second. That's going to hurt my... my toes are going to be hurting for a little bit because I've been on them nearly the whole time. But I'm doing all right. Thank you for asking. But I hope you get better. I hope you feel better. I wish you a speedy recovery with that cold, with that which you're going through. The cough and throat infection. Hopefully that gets taken care of sooner than later. My feet are killing me, and I'm almost done with this. Oh, sorry to hear about that. I hope your feet feel better. Yeah, and I hope your throat, what's it? Yeah, and I hope your throat infection goes away sooner than later. All right, James already went to the doctor, not to mention, so that's good to hear. All right, we came this far. We're not gonna let this phone. I just felt my bum saying that. We're not gonna let this phone die before I get to the end of this. We are literally that close to the end. Let's do this. First off, we got Waking the Dragon. This trap card has the effect: if the set card in its owner's control has left the field because of an opponent's effect, it is now in the graveyard or banished. You can special summon one monster from your deck or extra deck. Alright. And now, speaking of the extra deck, this will be an interesting one here. First off, we have Titaniclad the Ash Dragon. The Ash Dragon. This is a level 8 Dark Attribute Dragon Fusion effect monster with the effect, if I can do this right. Well, it requires Fallen of Albaz plus one monster with 2500 or more attack to do this. Gains attack equal to the combined original levels of the monsters used for its fusion summon times 100. After this card is fusion summoned for the rest of this turn, it is unaffected by the activated effects of any other monsters special summoned from the extra deck. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add to your hand or special summon one Dogmatica monster or one Fallen of Albaz from your deck. You can only use this effect on Titaniclad the Ash Dragon once per turn. This card has 2500 attack and 2000 defense, and my phone just said it's at 10%, so we gotta hurry. We're this close. We can do this. Next, we have Brigrin the Glory Dragon. This is a level 8 Dark Attribute Beast Fusion effect monster with the requiring Fallen of Albaz plus one level 8 or higher monster to fusion summon. This card cannot be destroyed by battle. While you control this fusion summoned card, your opponent cannot target other monsters you control with monster effects. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add to your hand or special summon one Tri-Brigade monster or one Fallen of Albaz from your deck. You can only use this effect of Brigrin, the Glory Dragon, once per turn. This card has 2500 attack and 2000 defense. Next up, we have Sprint the Iron Dash Dragon. This is a level 8 Dark Attribute Machine Fusion Effect monster with the effect. Well, it requires Fallen of Albaz plus 1 effect monster special summon this turn to fusion summon this monster. During your main phase, you can move this card you control to another of your main monster zones. Then you can destroy all other face-up cards in that card's column. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add to your hand or special summon one Springan's monster or one Fallen of Albaz from your deck. You can only use each effect of Spring the Iron Dash Dragon once per turn. This card has 2500 attack and 2000 defense. Next up, we have Albion the Branded Dragon. This is a level 8 Dark Attribute Dragon Fusion effect monster. Requires Fallen of Albaz plus 1 light monster to fusion summon this card. With the effect, if this card is fusion summoned, you can fusion summon one level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck except Albion the Branded Dragon by banishing fusion monsters mentioned on it from your hand, field, and or graveyard during the end phase. If this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add to your hand or set one branded spell trap directly from your deck. You can only use each effect of Albion the Branded Dragon once per turn. And now, we literally just got the tokens. We have Albaz the Shrouded. Does his name refer to a past buried in darkness or to a bright future? Ecclesia the Exiled. Geez, if I can actually read this to the camera, that'd be nice. A pure white heart to be filled with many memories. With thoughts of coming days in mind, this girl gives a name to the boy. Tri-Brigade. Ready, aim. The Virtuous Vestals. Sometimes like a kind sister, sometimes like, hey Katie, how you doing tonight? Sometimes like a, god damn, what the heck is with this camera? Sometimes like a strict teacher, the bond is always there, even while apart. Hello, I don't know shit about Yu-Gi-Oh, but I want to show some support. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you guys for the support, and don't worry. You don't have to know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh! Besides, there's so many more videos out there that can do this a lot better than I could. Even though I have something planned involving Yu-Gi-Oh! in the near future. But real quick though, because my phone might be dead here shortly, Aluber the Dogmatic. A thing separated from the abyss, it sucked the light and deceived the darkness. Yeah, so, yeah, I had to hurry up and do that. But yeah, those are all the cards in the 2 decks that I have. I'm going to end it right there, guys. I would do a raid, but my phone is going to die here shortly. So I'm just going to go ahead and call it right there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, this is Forrest Walpole, who is behind the camera, signing off. See you guys next time. Although I might be doing another live stream involving a live book reading like I did earlier. Later tonight, not now because obviously, but later tonight I might do that. Either way, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, this is Forrest Walpole, signing off.